Chapter 6 of Shalyaparva, Samanta Panchaka. Krishna had been watching silently all the while. He went up to Yudhishthira and said, I think you are the most foolish person I have ever seen in my life. This is foolhardiness. Duryodhana has been practicing on an iron image of Bhima for the last so many years to kill him. There is absolutely no chance of your ruling the world if anyone other than Bhima fights with Duryodhana. Even Bhima has not had much of practice. Your compassion has been your undoing all these years. Why did you have to go and challenge him to a duel of all things? I think this is the beginning of another game of dice. The sons of Pandu are doomed to spend all their lives in the forest. Bhima is the most powerful of the two, but Duryodhana is the more skillful. In a duel, skill is more important than power. We have been weakened and placed in a very, very precarious position by this offer of yours. After winning the war, you have given him a chance to snatch the kingdom away from you again. There is no one who can face Duryodhana in a fair fight. Bhima came to him and said, Krishna, do not worry. I will kill him. I will reach the boundary of this river of hatred which has been flowing between Duryodhana and the Pandavas, and particularly Bhima. I will challenge the great Duryodhana and ask him to fight with me. I am sure to win. Do not be worried about me. My mace is more powerful and I am the better of the two. Krishna was very happy to hear the words of Bhima. He said, Bhima, Yudhishthira will be lord of the world because of you. You have killed all the other sons of Dhritarashtra, and it is but right that you should be the person to kill the last of them. Win the world, Bhima, and lay it at the feet of your dear brother. The end of Duryodhana will be the end of all the troubles of Yudhishthira. But you must be very careful with Duryodhana. He is very good at the mace fight and he is very quick on his feet. Bhima went to Duryodhana and challenged him. He said, I want you to fight with me, Duryodhana. I want you to remember all that you did to us. You might have forgotten all that, but we have not. Remember Varanavatha? Remember Draupadi when she was dragged to your court by Dushasana? Remember the game of dice and the evil-minded Shakuni who was the cause of your downfall? Today, I mean to make you reap the consequences of your sinful acts. Because of you, the battlefield is beautified by the noble and great who are gone. Our grandfather, our beloved Bhishma, is now lying on a bed of arrows because of you. Drona, our dear Acharya, a man who should have been honored till the end of his life, lies dead on the battlefield. Radeya, the Sutaputra, is lying on the field like a second sun illuminating the earth. Our uncle Shalya, who you lured to your side, has now been killed by his own nephew, who should have honored him. Your dear brothers are all glowing on the field like the embers of a fire that was once raging. For all these terrible deaths, I will make you suffer. I am going to kill you. I will certainly kill you and please my beloved brother who was made to sleep on the ground. Bhima's voice was harsh with emotion. Duryodhana listened to his words with a sneer on his lips and with one eyebrow raised in supercilious amusement. He said, Do not shout so much, Bhima. Why do you talk so much without action? Let me see you in action. For years I have wanted to fight this duel with you. I am happy to see that you are man enough to challenge me. There is no one who has beaten me in the fight with a mace so far. In this entire world and in the heavens too, no one can stand against me. In a fair fight, even Indra will not be able to fight with me and win. Let me see you fight. I admit that among you five, you are the best opponent I can choose. The others are not fit enough to oppose me. I am prepared to pay you the compliment. You are good enough to fight with me. Next to me, I would place the great Shalya. After him, you are the best. All this is, of course, after my Lord Balarama. He is the greatest. He has said that I am better than all of you put together. Balarama has said that I am the greatest fighter with the mace. I am ready for the fight. Come, Bhima. Yudhishthira said, My dear Duryodhana, put on your armor and bind up your locks. Take anything else you want. You can then begin to fight. Duryodhana looked at him with something like affection. He had never hated Yudhishthira. He hated only Bhima. In his desire for the riches of Yudhishthira, he had done all this injustice to him. Duryodhana was overcome with respect and admiration for this man who was so noble. He realized that he was indeed the brother of Radeya. He could see how much resemblance there was between these two. He brushed away these thoughts and got ready for the fight. He put on his golden armor. He placed on his head his beautiful crown. He looked magnificent as he stood there in the evening light, glowing like the setting sun. The fight was about to begin. Just then the great Balarama came to their presence. All of them were extremely pleased to see him. He had heard from the sage Narada that the great Gadha Yuddha was to be fought between his students. Duryodhana was his favorite pupil and he wanted to be there when the duel was fought. They welcomed him. Bhima and Duryodhana saluted him. Duryodhana was very happy to see his guru there. He sent for an excellently covered seat to be placed for Balarama. The fight was waiting to begin. Balarama said, I have just returned from a tour of all the holy places. I told that the Samanta Panchaka, which is very near, is the holiest of all places. A person who dies on that spot will certainly reach heaven. I suggest that the Gadha Yuddha be fought on that spot. So be it, said Yudhishthira, and they all walked towards Samanta Panchaka. Duryodhana, with the mace in his hand, walked on with the others. The sight was grand. It was a unique spectacle. The Kaurava monarch walking on foot with the Pandava host towards the place chosen for the duel. His head was held so high. His bearing was as proud and arrogant as ever. The coming of Balarama was an added pleasure to Duryodhana, who was surrounded by his enemies. He walked on with the Pandavas. Krishna was walking with Balarama and Satyaki was a few steps behind. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 7 of Shalyaparva, the fall of Duryodhana. The two heroes were ready to fight. Everyone was waiting to see the Gadha Yuddha that was to be fought between two masters. The fight began. It looked like two oceans trying to mingle with each other, or like two thunder clouds charging against each other. Both were powerful. Both were students of Balarama. Both were brothers, sons of the great house of the Kurus. Both were bent on destroying each other. It was a dreadful sight to see two handsome men standing with their maces uplifted to kill each other. The king addressed Yudhishthira. I want all of you to be seated. Watch this great fight between us and enjoy it. It will please all those who are fond of us to watch this fight. They sat around the spot where they were stationed to fight. Balarama looked very beautiful with his blue silk covering his fair frame. By his side sat Krishna, dark and handsome. They looked like the moon and a dark cloud by its side. The fight was on. Duryodhana and Bhima were both powerful with their maces. And it was a beautiful sight, the glorious display of two heroes. They fought for a while and both became so exhausted. Both rested for a while and the fight was resumed. The clash of steel against steel was deafening. Sparks flew from the maces when they hit against each other. Duryodhana was very graceful and Bhima's strokes were powerful. Krishna was right. There was no doubt about the superiority of Duryodhana. Balarama was watching the fight with pleased eyes and Krishna was watching him covertly. The way the fighters circled about each other was a delightful sight. It was in accordance with the code of the fight, and both were observing all the rules strictly. Duryodhana would strike at the mace of Bhima and force it out of his hand. With an angry cry, Bhima would recover it and the fight would continue. Bhima did the same to Duryodhana. Recovering his mace, Duryodhana struck at Bhima with all his might. He was furious. Bhima was stunned by the blow, but he was able to compose himself. He flung his mace at Duryodhana. With very graceful movements, Duryodhana stepped aside and the mace fell on the ground. The fight was going on. It looked as though it would never end. Twice Bhima fainted, unable to bear the hard hitting of Duryodhana. Once Duryodhana fell down, Bhima waited for him to get up. After a while, Duryodhana fell once again. But on the whole, Bhima was not finding it as easy as he thought to fight with Duryodhana. During the war, he had fought twice with Shalya with the mace, and both the times he had been able to vanquish that great hero. But Duryodhana was far superior to Shalya. Bhima fought valiantly. He was a wonderful hitter. Duryodhana seemed to be dancing on the field. His feet were so nimble and his tread was so light. Bhima's steps were more heavy and at times his fighting looked crude. While they were fighting, Arjuna was talking to Krishna. He said, "Krishna, who is the superior of the two? Who deserves to win? Please tell me what you think about it." Krishna smiled a soft smile. He said, "They have both been trained by my brother. They are both good. But Arjuna, it must be evident even to you that Duryodhana is far superior to Bhima. Bhima is more powerful, no doubt, but Duryodhana is quick, nimble and very skillful. Look how beautifully he evades the powerful hits of Bhima. In a fair fight, Duryodhana cannot be killed. Bhima will have to take to unfair fight if he has any desire to win. This brother of yours, this Yudhishthira, has been foolish enough to arrange this fight. Can you not see that Duryodhana is desperate? He will fight his best. Look how lightly he jumps up to avoid the powerful hit of Bhima. It is a delight to watch this man's skill. If only there was not a kingdom at stake, I would spend hours together here, watching this Gadha Yuddha. But Bhima has got to end the fight soon. I wonder how he is going to do it." Arjuna remembered the oath of Bhima. When Bhima's eyes were turned in his direction, Arjuna looked at Bhima and struck his own thigh forcibly. Bhima caught his meaning. Krishna was smiling all the while. Yudhishthira was in a sad frame of mind. He became sure that his Bhima would be killed by Duryodhana. The fight was going on. Duryodhana was carrying around Bhima with his mace, uplifted to kill him when the chance came. They fought for a while and again Bhima became exhausted. They rested again and a few moments later they resumed the fight. The very air was tense. Duryodhana dealt a terrible blow at Bhima. Bhima almost fainted away. Duryodhana thought that he had fainted, but Bhima was able to control his weakness. He raised his mace aloft and approached Duryodhana with the intention of hitting him in the chest. Cheating him of his plans, Duryodhana jumped up nimbly into the air and made the hit of Bhima futile. It was repeated. Bhima came up once again with his mace uplifted. Again Duryodhana sprang up into the air to dodge the blow. When he was leaping up, Bhima hit on his beautiful thighs. At one fell blow, the thighs of Duryodhana were broken. He fell on the ground like a serpent whose waist had been crushed. Duryodhana lay on the ground like Aruna, the divine charioteer of the sun. The sky resounded with sudden peals of thunder. The very earth quaked in protest at this injustice done in a fight. It was a very wrong thing to do. Bhima killed Duryodhana by unfair means. It was not appreciated by men who believed in fairness, but Bhima was wild with joy. His dream which had been always haunting him had come true. He had broken the thighs of Duryodhana as he had sworn to do 14 years back. He jumped for joy. It was terrible to see him. He looked like someone not of this world. He rushed up to the fallen monarch and placed his foot on that beautiful head. He said, "All of you laughed at me and danced when we left Hastinapura. You and your dear brothers called me cow. I have not forgotten it. I swore that same day I would place my foot on your head. I have done it now." Before he could do it again, Yudhishthira rushed up to him and dragged him away from there. He said, "Bhima, do not do it. You have done what you have sworn to do. That ends all enmity. This act is an insult to Duryodhana. He is a king. He is your brother. He is the son of the house of Kurus. He was the lord of 11 Akshauhinis. He has lost everything. And it is not right that you should do this to him when he is down. He is not to be insulted. I will not allow it. I am not pleased with this insult you have offered to a fallen monarch." His eyes were full of tears. He went to Duryodhana and said, "My dear cousin, please do not grieve for yourself. You have lost everything you had, and now you are on the ground, about to lose your life. This is no fault of ours, but it is all because of you. You have brought it all on yourself, and destiny has arranged things in this manner. Duryodhana, I am jealous of you. You will reach the heavens, while we will have to live on this earth, which is bereft of all her glory. I salute you, king of the world." Yudhishthira gave way to the grief in his heart. He was so unhappy to see the ruin of the world because of this one man, and now his ruin too. The king was now on the ground, his thighs broken by Bhima. It was a great tragedy, and Yudhishthira, with his gentle nature, could not bear it. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavatu bharata abhyuttanamadharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham pritranaya cha sadhunam vinashaya cha duskrutam dharma samsthapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Chapter 8 of Shalyaparva, Balarama's Wrath. Balarama was furious with Bhima for his unfair fighting. He said, "Bhima, you have today brought disgrace to your guru by doing what you have done. You have hit your opponent below the waist. It is the meanest action on the part of a fighter, and I am going to kill you for this. You have killed my beloved pupil by unfair means. I will avenge the death of Duryodhana." Balarama lifted up the plough, his personal weapon, and rushed at Bhima. Krishna rushed up to him and stopped him by holding him back with his arms thrown about him. Krishna said, "My lord, forbear from this fury. What Bhima did was right. This particular act perhaps was against the rules of fair fighting. But in your blind affection for Duryodhana, you seem to forget all that he has done to the Pandavas. He has never been fair. He has been a cheat all along. The Pandavas tried their best to avert a war. You know it. It is well known how much injustice has been meted out to the Pandavas. When the beautiful Draupadi was dragged to the presence of this arrogant man, he insulted her in the presence of all the Pandavas by showing his thigh to her and asking her to join his harem. Can any man bear that insult to his wife? These ties should have been broken then, but they were not. Yudhishthira prevented Bhima from rushing at Duryodhana, and Bhima took an oath that someday he would break those ties of Duryodhana. That is why he did it. Or else, how can his oath be fulfilled? An oath is to be achieved at all costs. That is the rule. My dear brother, you cannot bear this one injustice done to your beloved Duryodhana. You are now ready to kill all the Pandavas by rushing at them with your plough. But I have been seeing the injustice done to the Pandavas for the last so many years. If I had so desired, I could also have killed this man and punished him. I could easily have avenged the sufferings of these good men and the tears of Draupadi. But I did not interfere till the war was declared. I tried my level best to avert the war. Again, I have not fought in this war at all. You wanted me to be indifferent. How can one stand by and watch injustice for a long time without interfering? You are ready to do it now. You who turned your back on the war since you could not bear to see the end of the Kauravas. Please do not try to avenge the killing of this sinful man. Leave him to his fate and the Pandavas too. They are our cousins, and after so many years of suffering, they are hoping to be happy. Please do not be angry with them. Balarama was slightly mollified by the words of Krishna, but he was not convinced at all. Krishna said, My lord, remember that the fourth quarter of the time Kali has already stepped in. We cannot find unsullied righteousness from now on. Even in the war, the first 9 days were untainted by unrighteousness. From the 10th day, the tone of the war changed. The purity was clouded by small acts of adharma, and it grew day by day. It is the rule of time. You must not try to change the course of destiny. She will have her way. She is unrighteous too, and she fulfills herself in many ways, mostly unrighteous. I, for one, feel that the end justifies the means. Balarama said, I am not convinced by your honey tongue, Krishna. This Bhima has today killed Duryodhana by unfair fighting. The world will always speak of him as a bad fighter, as one who did not observe the rules of fighting. I am proud of Duryodhana. He will reach the heavens and he will be there eternally. He is a fair fighter. The world will always remember the Gadha Yuddha. It spells eternal glory to Duryodhana and lasting shame to Bhima. Spitting out these words, Balarama went to Duryodhana and took tender leave of him. Duryodhana's eyes were full of love and gratitude for this great man who was ready to fight the Pandavas for his sake. Balarama left the spot with an angry face and ascended his chariot. He hurried to Dwaraka without even bidding farewell to the Pandavas. Krishna must have mentally heaved a sigh of relief. He did not mind the anger of Balarama now. A bowl of wine set before him by the fair hands of Revati would make him forget all this. Krishna had been able to save the Pandavas from the wrath of his dreadful brother. That was enough. Krishna was sorry for Bhima. He was standing crestfallen at the words of Balarama. He had been dreaming of this moment all these years. They all knew about his oath. They knew that he would do it. Actually, during the fight, he had forgotten the oath. It was Arjuna who had reminded him of it, and now Arjuna himself was standing aside as though he did not approve of his action either. Krishna guessed all that was passing through the mind of Bhima, and he came to him. He took Bhima's hand in his and said, Bhima, I am proud of you. You have done what you had sworn to do. It is not given to every man to fulfill an oath. I am glad to see that you have done all that you had been longing to do. Yudhishthira smiled at Bhima. Bhima rushed to the presence of his brother. He fell at his feet. Bathing them with his tears, he said, I am offering this world to you, my lord. It is yours. The long, long story of hatred is ended. You have no more enemies. You are free from the pain which was hurting you all these years. Draupadi will give up sleeping on the floor. She will be happy. I have achieved all that I have wanted to achieve. I crave for your blessings, my lord. Yudhishthira lifted him up and embraced him. The Pandava host now broke out into wild shouts of joy. The tension caused by the anger of Balarama had been snapped by this tender scene between Bhima and his brother. They all rushed to Bhima and they congratulated him over his victory over Duryodhana. Krishna said, "Let us not kill this man who has already been slain. This man, this Duryodhana, was the greatest sinner on this earth. He had so many people to advise him to do the right thing. He would not listen to the words of Vidura. Instead, he listened only to the advice of Shakuni and treated his cousins shamefully. That is why he is lying on the ground dying. Let us leave him and go away from here. He is now worse than a piece of wood." Duryodhana had been listening to the words of all of them. He rose upon his waist like a wounded cobra which is not dead yet. He was suffering intense agony because of his efforts to raise his body. But he did not mind all that. He said, "Krishna, stop these words. You are just a slave of Kamsa. You are not even a king. You have no shame. I have been killed most unfairly and you are gloating over my fall. You were responsible for this act of Bhima. I do not blame him at all. In all fairness to Bhima, I must say that he had forgotten his oath. He was fighting a fair game. You brought the talk round to unfair fighting when you were talking to Arjuna. You spoke loud deliberately to make Bhima hear you. Arjuna slapped his thigh. Do you think I did not mark it? You have caused so many kings to be killed by unfair means and you dare to call me a sinner? I know all your actions, Krishna. You are the cause of the great war and the slaughterer of so many men. You brought Shikhandi to the front of the chariot of our grandfather and made Arjuna kill him. Do you think I did not mark it? You caused the elephant called Ashwattama to be killed and it was you who had made Drishtadyumna kill Drona. Do you think I did not mark it? It was you who made Ghatotkacha face Radheya and made the Shakti of Radheya to be wasted on that beast. Do you think I did not mark it? It was you who made Arjuna kill Radheya when his chariot wheel was caught in the murk. Do you think I did not mark it? If the Pandavas had fought with Bhishma and Drona and Radheya by fair means, they would never have won this war. You, Krishna, you are the greatest sinner here, and not I, who have been killed by unfair means. Krishna turned on him with angry eyes. He said, "Listen to me, Duryodhana. You have been killed because of your adharma. You have killed all your friends and all your dependents by your unrighteousness. Bhishma and Drona and Radheya were killed because they took up your cause against that of the Pandavas. Bhishma should not have sided with you. Drona could have left Hastinapura and gone away to the forest. Radheya was bent on pleasing you. He knew that you were in the wrong and yet he fought for you. It is because of you and your wicked deeds that they have been killed. You say that I am the cause of the war. Have you so soon forgotten my coming to Hastinapura? Have you forgotten the trouble I took to convince you that the war should not be fought? You would not let the world out of your grasp. Your avarice has been the cause of this war and the death of all the heroes. Your wickedness goes far back into the time when you were just a young boy. The young plant of jealousy was encouraged to grow by your father and your uncle Shakuni. It is the fruits of that tree that you are tasting now. For the death of Abhimanyu, for that one incident, you must be killed again and again. You do not deserve the sympathy of anyone. I am not sorry for you." Duryodhana smiled a wan smile. His eyebrow was raised in the old supercilious way. He said, "I have studied the Vedas. I have made many gifts to many people. I have ruled this wide world. I have tasted her to the full. I have walked over the heads of my enemies. I am very fortunate. After a happy life, I have a happy future ahead of me. I am going to the heavens which are to be attained by those who die on the field of battle. I will meet all those who are dear to me there in the heaven. I will be with my dear friend Radheya. I am indeed more fortunate than these people who will have to live on in this world full of grief. Duryodhana paused for breath. A look of utter disdain came to his eyes. He smiled a bitter smile and said, "As for Bhima stamping on my head, I do not mind it, not at all. A few moments more and crows and hawks will be pecking into my head." There fell from the sky flowers on the head of Duryodhana when he spoke these words. The sky was clear and soft like the light inside an opal. The Pandavas hung their heads in shame and sorrow when they saw that the heavens approved of the words of Duryodhana. Krishna turned on all of them his angry eyes. He thundered at them in his beautiful swan like voice. Of course, they were all slain by unfair means. They were all the very flowers of Kshatriya prowess. If you had fought by fair means, they could never have been defeated, leave alone the question of their being killed. Not all your powers with the bows and arrows and your divine astras could have given you victory over those heroes. This Duryodhana could never have been killed in fair fight. Look at me and listen to me carefully. Long ago in the Kamayaka forest, I wiped the tears from the eyes of my dear Draupadi and promised to her that I would cause the death of all those who had made her cry. Yudhishthira, you did not mind the insult to her in the court at Hastinapura. You were bent only on the right or wrong of it. You allowed your wife to be insulted by these animals, and you stood silent because you thought it was not righteous to interfere. You stopped Bhima from doing what he should have done. But I could not let Draupadi cry. When she was in the court, no one came to her help. The great Bhishma and Drona and all the others never helped her. I swore to kill every one of them. Yes, every one of them. I killed the great Bhishma because he had not the courage to interfere when the beasts of the court were harassing Draupadi. I killed Drona for the same reason. He was also indifferent on the day when the game of dice was played. He had no right to join the war and fight on the side of Duryodhana when he knew that the Pandavas were in the right. He loved this sinner and so the Bhishma, Drona too had to die. I am bent on only one thing, the righting of a wrong done to good men. I have achieved it. I am not sorry. As for the sin of all this unfair fighting, let it fall on my head. I am prepared to shoulder that too for the sake of the Pandavas. They mean my very life to me. But come, the sun has reached the western hill. Let us go away from here. The entire Pandava host went away from the neighborhood of Samanta Panchaka. The king was there all alone, dying, with his thighs broken, with no one by his side. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Iti Shalyaparva Samaptaha. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.